You ever notice how it's always the folks who don't do a thing for anyone who get the most worked up about the people who do? That's the first thing I'd tell you if you ever ask me about the wildest year of my life. The year I learned just how much a loaf of bread and a stubborn streak could change an entire neighborhood. See, mornings have always been my time. The only hours when the world's quiet enough to hear your own thoughts. When you can slip out of bed, tug on an old hoodie, and wake up an engine without waking up the whole block. I'm not some tech guy, not some suit, just Aaron Hill, 27, driving a battered bread truck through a suburb called Fairmeadow, a place where hedges are measured and mailboxes have to be painted the right shade of green, if you can believe it. Driving a bread truck wasn't my dream. You know, I once had my sights on music, college, maybe a shot at something big. But when Dad died, everything changed overnight. I dropped out to take care of Mom and my little sister, grabbed the first job I could, night shift, no experience, hauling bread for the Sunrise Baking Company. Over time, that job turned into a little freelance business of my own, delivering for local bakeries, sometimes nonprofits. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills, kept us afloat. Then came the fires. Whole towns wiped out in a weekend, families with nothing but what they could toss in the back of a car. Shelters overflowing, everyone scrambling. That's when my buddy from disaster response hit me up. You still got that bread truck? The next thing I know, I'm running supplies to school gyms packed with cots, helping folks who lost everything find a little comfort in a fresh roll, a soft loaf. I wasn't out for recognition. I just drove, sometimes 14 hours straight, sometimes through air so thick with smoke you'd cough all night after. For a while, it felt like nobody noticed what I was doing. I got into this rhythm, pick up extra loaves from bakeries on Mondays, drop them at shelters, restock on Saturdays, let the truck nap on Sundays. I kept my head down, just doing the work. Then, out of nowhere, the notices started. Little slips of paper with that unmistakable Fairmeadow HOA letterhead, tucked under my windshield or taped to the mailbox, no signatures, just rules and threats. Commercial vehicles may not be parked overnight. Failure to remove said vehicle within 48 hours may result in daily fines. You know the drill. Enter Karen. If you've never met a Karen, count your blessings. Sunglasses too big for her face, tiny dog in tow, never misses a chance to look down her nose. One morning, I caught her photographing my truck, then furiously typing on her phone like she was sending a crime alert to the entire zip code. I figured, maybe if I explained what I was doing, things would chill out. I tried the HOA office, locked tight. Emails ignored, voicemails never returned. I just kept going. Until one Wednesday, Karen finally called the cops. There I was, loading extra bread at 6 a.m., Karen in her pink robe across the street, voice like a chainsaw. Yes, I'd like to report a suspicious commercial vehicle. The officers showed up, professional, polite. I showed them my FEMA volunteer badge, a printout of my schedule, the list of shelters. The older cop asked, "You're doing evac food runs?" I nodded. The officers thanked me and left. Karen, arms crossed, fuming on the curb, watched them drive away. That should have been the end, right? Nope, just round one. Next morning, a new letter, this one duct taped to my mailbox. Final warning, threats of $250 daily fines, signed by Darren, the HOA president, who I'd never even met. It's funny, you spend years thinking you're invisible, then suddenly you're public enemy number one for parking in your own driveway. I wasn't alone, though. Paul, the retired vet 3 doors down, asked about the truck as I loaded up one morning. I told him the story. He just shook his head. Karen tried to report my grandkids for skateboarding. Don't let her rattle you, kid. Sometimes, a quiet nod means more than a speech. When the next HOA meeting rolled around, I showed up, stack of permits, emails, photos of shelters, even a thank you letter from a church. I explained what I did, who I helped, how the truck was legal and authorized. Karen, of course, had to say her piece. Visual consistency is part of our community values. I said, so is compassion. Some folks nodded. One even clapped before Karen glared her quiet. Darren mumbled about bylaws and promised to review things. But it was clear the fight was on. They upped the pressure. Orange cones blocking my driveway, flyers under my wipers with maps to an industrial lot 3 miles away, like I was running some racket. Karen started putting on performances in the street, shouting about rules and property values. She even called 911, painted me as some threat because I was a guy with a beard and a box truck. That one was scary, I won't lie. I knew how quickly that sort of thing could turn sideways, but every time, the police checked my paperwork, saw the county exemptions, and backed me up. One officer even told me, sometimes doing the right thing looks like defiance to people obsessed with control. You need anything, call us, not the HOA. That stuck with me. The harassment got pettier, fines stapled to my tree, egged windshield, tire tracks on my lawn. But each time, I just documented everything, sent copies to Jenny at the county, who always replied, "Hang tight. We got your back." The HOA kept moving the goalposts, rewriting rules mid-game, sending drones to film my truck. Seriously, drones. Darren himself was spotted piloting one. It was absurd, but the turning point? Someone filmed Karen's meltdown, her screaming fit, the neighbors speaking up for me, the whole scene. The video went viral. People showed up at my door, bringing cookies, thank you cards, even a little drawing of me in a cape made out of toast. For every angry notice, there were twice as many quiet acts of kindness. The county stepped in, sent a formal cease and desist to the HOA. Any more harassment would be considered interference with emergency operations, and they'd answer in court. The fines stopped. The threats dried up. Even Karen's porch went dark. A few days later, I got a note on my mailbox. Thank you for not giving up. My brother got food in Riverland because of you. CS. The first time someone from inside the neighborhood acknowledged what I was doing, not as a problem, but as a help. That night, the county asked me to speak at a town hall. I didn't talk about Karen or the HOA, just told the truth about what happens when disaster hits and nobody steps up, about how a community is measured not by its bylaws, but by how it treats the most vulnerable. After that, everything changed. The HOA rewrote the rules, emergency vehicles allowed, no more fines during disasters, more transparency. Karen stepped down, Darren too. The newsletter even thanked me by name. Sometimes that's all it takes to be seen, to have someone say, "We notice." The neighborhood grew warmer, a little more open. People waved. Kids called out to the bread guy. Neighbors helped unload crates. Even the tough ones softened. The church asked me to teach teens about logistics, how to organize help before you need it. I said yes, not because I wanted a title, but because I learned that standing your ground doesn't have to mean standing alone. Winter came. The fires went out. Shelters closed. The Fairmeadow HOA passed what they called the Hill Clause, protecting folks who step up in hard times. I never asked for that. I just wanted to be left alone to do some good. But maybe that's how things change, not with parades or speeches, but with one person refusing to be small, refusing to let pettiness win. Last Christmas Eve, Jenny from the county showed up with a little wooden plaque. For relentless service and unshakable integrity to Aaron Hill, the one who delivered. No cameras, no speech, just the truth. I sat on my porch that night, listening to Nat King Cole on someone else's radio, watching the lights twinkle across the block, thinking about how the loudest fights are often won in silence. So yeah, that's my story. If you ask what changed Fairmeadow, I won't say my name. I'll just say sometimes all it takes is one person who won't back down, one person who answers hate with bread and keeps showing up, even when the world tries to push you out. And if you ever pass through, I'll hand you a loaf of sourdough, smile, and say, "You want to see what community really means? Start right here." Now, let's talk. What would you have done in my shoes? Where's the line between rules and real justice? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, it's folks like you, folks who care enough to ask, that keep neighborhoods like mine from falling apart.